And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Saturday. Welcome to my Retro Elite ZX Spectrum stream. At least ZX Spectrum at the moment, right? And Elite at the moment. We'll see where it goes in the future. But right now, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. Hello, everybody. Good to see the chat tickling away. So fantastic. Thank you for joining me this Saturday afternoon. It's actually a really nice day, isn't it? There's no problem with streaming on. It's like maybe I should be out in the garden enjoying the sun. But never mind. I saw we have a Commander Sinclair, so that's fantastic. I love the retro touch. That's really cool. That's really cool. Fantastic. Anyway, so welcome along. Good to have you all. Good to have you. And apparently, play Elite Dangerous as Commander Sinclair Research. Thumbs up from me. That's really awesome. Right. So, how are we all doing? How are we all doing? I'm just going to load the game back into where it's supposed to be. There we go. Right. Hang on a minute. Let me switch to my ZX Spectrum screen. There we go. Boom, boom. Now, at the end of last week's episode, we were hadn't quite finished off. We'd gone and fight the Thargoids, which is going to be a thing, right? At the end of each thing, we're going to do some Thargoiding. Now we know how to do it. Everyone's good, so that's good. Winnie's here. Yeah, we're good actually. We're good. Nobody's ill. Everything seems to be tickling along okay. Commander Sinclair's good as well. That's good. So yeah, fantastic. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. Not too bad at all. Playing a little bit of retro gaming. I think priority is the EEU. What was the EEU? Extra energy unit. Right. Sorry, I'm being a bit slow. Right. Anyway, let's. We had to save it just before I got to the space station. So let's get to the space station. Well, I'm torn. Is it the extra energy unit or is it a docking computer? Yeah, you see, the docking computer. I'm inclined to go for the docking computer because then we can speed up a little bit, right? Because we haven't got to do this whole docking thing, right? And whilst I'm okay at docking, this bit of the game does take a long time, right? And I have the art of docking. I'm okay at docking, right? It's just the time it takes, right? And we can get on to doing more interesting things because we need to get the kill count up and start ranking up a little bit, right? Because I want to trigger these missions ultimately. It's a massive time saver. That is exactly the thing. So there we go. So for those of you not familiar with what you're doing, which I'm sure there aren't many of you, but we are playing the original game of Elite, predecessor to Elite Dangerous, of course, on a computer of that era. This is a ZX Spectrum now. This is actually an emulation of a ZX Spectrum. I do have a genuine ZX Spectrum, but I haven't got a television I can plug it into. But I was doing a bit of research this week about the mods that you can do to original Spectrum to allow it to plug into a composite TV, right? Or a monitor. Now, unfortunately, my monitor does not have a composite input either. So that doesn't solve me getting it onto the screen. But if I can find an old telly that does have one of those, then maybe I'll be okay. The problem with monitors is they generally only have the HDMI or the DVI ports now. Both of the monitors I've got on my desktop only have those. So I'd need some way to convert a composite signal into DVI. I've got a little bit too close to the space station there. Let's go random. Go again. So Commander Sinclair, okay. So after watching your stream, I put some hours into the speculate. The first thing I got was docking computer. Yeah, so we haven't actually gone that route on this particular save, but I can't remember exactly where we got to, right? So we'll find out when we get into the space station. So let's do that first. So I don't know if you saw my slightly revised startup screen. I put a little bit of tech spec. You know, a lot of people like to boast about their PC specs on their streams, right? I sticked up the ZX Spectrum tech specs, which of course is distinctly underwhelming by modern standards. So that was quite funny. Yeah, so we're running an emulation here of a computer from the 8-bit era with a 3.5 megahertz, not gigahertz, we're talking megahertz here, megahertz processor. And the frame rate that you're seeing there is pretty genuine for this game, right? Look, we're poor. Rating, I've forgotten that. Rating poor, right? Presumably we've got some stuff to sell. We've got 27 tons of computers to sell. 8 tons of machinery to sell. So we've made some cash, right? We're doing all right. 3,595.7. Not quite sure you need the 0.7s. And the fuel, right? So let's get the fuel. That's a no-brainer, right? Now equipment-wise, we now have a large cargo bay. So the Cobra Mark III in this game has 20 tons cargo capacity as standard. We've bought the extra large cargo bay, which gives us 35 tons of cargo space, right? That's quite useful. We've also now bought a fuel scoop, which means we can go and refuel at the sun, which is a bit of a waste of time, to be honest, because fuel is cheap. But it does allow us to scoop cargo from other vessels, which is useful, right? We have an ECM system, which is an anti-missile system. And we have a front beam laser, which does make us a bit more potent in defence. Now, so basically, where we got to the end of last week is we had a ship that could defend itself and then run away. Okay, we haven't got a ship at the moment that can handle multiple attackers really well, and we haven't got a ship that can go on the offensive yet. We need to get a few more bits and pieces. We have, and there's a little tradition now that's developed, is we have to have a little scrap with the Thargoids at the end. Now, on the original Leak, there's a little Easter egg, I suppose it is really in modern terminology. We didn't call them Easter eggs back then. Can't remember what we called them actually. I notice I'm still called Commander Jameson. I should really save that, shouldn't I? And change my commander name. But we're playing in character, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's this little Easter egg in the original games of Elite where you can force a mist jump into witch space. Okay. And we'll talk a bit about witch space on one of my Elite Dangerous lore streams on Thursdays. But essentially, it's you can force a mist jump and you end up in a Thargoid infested space. Now you either get 3 on the Spectrum version, you get 3 or 4 Thargoid warships to fight. And so far, both times, the first time we tried it was basically with a stock ship with just literally the pulse laser, and we got wiped out. I think I got 2, didn't I? When I tried it with this ship, I managed to get 3 of them, I think, and then I got killed as well. So we have not managed to wipe out any Thargoids. Well, we've killed some, but we've not managed to survive to tell the tale, right? So maybe by the end of today's session, we'll have a slightly better ship. Now, did I get 3 on the first go? I can't remember. We'd have to look on the videos. But I did all right? But not good. I didn't survive. So I've yet to survive a Thargoid encounter. So from here, now we can... the extra energy unit is there, right? 1,500 quid. Now I think it might be worth us doing another trading run and then comparing that with the oh god, docking computer. Yep. Oh, I overheated it. Yeah, okay. That's the problem. But so let's start with that. Let's go for food, and let's go for what's 15 plus 2 is 17. That means we've got a full cargo bay. Right, so we need to get the local map. Let's go to Leesti, which is where we've been. We've just been doing this milk run trade route, which we're going to do for a little bit longer, but not for much longer, I think, because once we've got the docking computer and the extra energy unit, I think we're in fighting shape. We can start going to places that are a little bit more dangerous. So off to Leesti we go. And out of hyperspace we come. Right, so full throttle, let's head towards the planet. I think on the BBC version, the targeting reticle changed depending on which weapon you had. I seem to vaguely remember that. I don't think it changes on the Spectrum version. It's literally just the behaviour of the weapon. You'll notice when I fire now, I get a continuous beam rather than a... yeah, it'd be good to put a mining laser on the back, because then we can double use it for mining, right? And it's also quite a useful defensive weapon. So, yeah, I think a mining laser on the back will be good. That's a good plan. So let's see if we can get that. Let's see if we can get a mining laser, extra energy unit, and a docking computer. I think that's good, because that gives us quite a versatile ship. That's what's nice about, even on this original game, right, is you could go, I can trade this off against that, and so on and so forth. So you can build your ship the way you want it. Okay, I mean, it's only an 8-bit game, right? But the customization options are pretty good. Okay. Right, so and at this point, if we had the docking computer, we could just hit dock and we'd be done, right? So unfortunately, at the moment, we haven't got that. So I do think that docking computer, cut this bit out of the game, right, is going to actually be is going to be valuable, because we've got to wait at least another couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes here, in order to get into the space station, right? Now on the Spectrum version, it's literally just a shortcut. You insta dock, okay? I've been told by the people who played on the C64 that the computer then animated the docking mechanism. And I don't know about the BBC. Maybe other people can tell me. It sounds okay. That's interesting. So the laser crosshairs changing on other versions. It did on the C64, so it doesn't on the Spectrum version. So that's a slight difference between that and the other various bits and pieces. So yeah, all the different early versions of Elite had like little differences, right? And then the BBC and there's the Taurus drive were instance. Yeah, so that's the difference. You notice on this when we're jumping towards the planet, we get a scrolly effect on the spectrum. That's not seen in any of the other games. Just insta jump towards the towards the planet. Which so there's lots of little bits and pieces. Right, each individual version of Elite on these 8 bits has got its own unique little features. Some are better than others, right? What the Spectrum version lacks really actually is the frame rate. Compared to the BBC version, because it's not as well optimized as the BBC. The BBC employed some very neat little tricks, like only drawing half of the graphics and letting the CRT latency, still kind of hold the image. I didn't do that very well, did I? It's quite a lot more dynamic in its gameplay, particularly when you're in combat. Clearly the ZX Spectrum version has pretty rubbish sound because it doesn't have any sound hardware essentially, which the BBC and the Commodore 64 did. But what the Spectrum version does have is a bit more kind of immersion in the sense of some of the way that the ships operate and travel around you and do their thing. So, and they've got more missions because there was more available memory on the Spectrum. So things like that all make these various different versions of Elite interesting and different. Right, so let's sell that. Now I think this is the time to buy. Let's make sure we fill up with our 59 tons of computers. Excellent. That gives 6 tons of machinery. That leaves us with 12. It's not quite enough. How much is the dock computers? Are 1500. We need to make one more run. The energy unit is 1500 as well, so we need to clear a profit of 1500 in order to get it. We could get the mining laser at this point, but it's kind of not really worth it yet. So I vote we just keep going. Yeah, there's no pythons today, so I'm not sure what that was about. Let's go back in that case for the time being. Let's just do a couple more runs. It's just about building up your cash, okay? You don't want to run your cash too low because you need that to keep your trading going at this point of the game, because we're still quite cash poor. I'm happy to see the status indicator, which is not present on the other 8-bit versions. Yeah, so that is absolutely true. So on the Spectrum version, you've got this, as you can see, it's just gone from green to amber. That's probably because a Python has launched behind us. Pretty sure that would mean there's a Python there. Yep, so there's your missing Python, Winnie. It's just made an evasive loop and gone over there. There it is. You can see it's sort of trying to dodge a little bit because it's a bit nervous. It'll steady out once it gets to a certain distance. And yes, you've got that alert indicator, and that also shows up on different screens. You notice here on the top right, it appears there. So you've even got your alert indicator when you're in different screens, which is something that I think only the Spectrum version had that. I assumed all the games had that. But no, that seems to be, unless somebody tells me other about, that seems to be a unique feature of the Spectrum, having the little alert indicator. And basically it's green when there's no danger, yellow when there's potentially something around that might be dangerous, and then it goes red when you're under attack, and it goes flashing red when you're in imminent danger of dying. So that's what the status indicator means, which is a nice feature, right? It's a nice feature. There's the Taurus drive again, and here we have a pirate. Okay, so pirates always appear on the top right. Now, the reason the pirates are appearing a little bit more now is that we're carrying a lot of cargo. This looks like it's a Cobra trudging, but it should be easy to kill it now that we've got a beam laser. There we go. Right, we get 17 credits for picking it up. Now, the only problem is, because we've got a full tank, a full cargo hold, I can't pick up this piece of debris, which otherwise I would be able to. I can't shoot it down either. Don't know what it is. It might be an escape pod, in which case I'm being guilty of murder. No, it's a cargo canister. So let's just... I don't think we get any points for shooting this, but it's good practice. There we go. So, right, and onwards we go. Now the Taurus drive only works when there aren't any other ships around. Okay, so this one I know is also a Cobra, but this is a Cobra Mark III as a trader. It's a safe ship because it's appeared in front of me, which gives you a clue, and it's not attacking me. So we can watch it go past. There it is, and you'll recognise the distinctive lines of a Cobra going past the screen. There we go. It's all the good stuff. And at the moment, you see, I can't press the Taurus drive. In fact, I'm now in system space anyway, so I can't move. I just have to wait for the game. So this is the bit of the game we can cut out with the docking computer, which is going to. Now, the docking computer is a slight cheat, right? It is a slight cheat because what you can do if you're in trouble, what you can do, and I don't know if this is true on all the other versions of Elite, but when you're getting relatively close to the space station, you can sometimes angle up and down, and the system will glitch slightly and put you into space station space. And the moment that S appears, right, you can hit the docking computer. So sometimes you can trick the game into getting you into a place. So if there's loads of pirates on your tail and you're in trouble, if you run for the planet, you can get into system space by angling your ship right. Then you can press the docking button and you instantly teleport into the safety of the space station, which of course, if you really hit your docking computer when you're under attack, you'd be stupid, right? Because you die. So there's a little bit of an exploit there which you can take advantage of. And I don't know if that's true on the other versions of Elite, because the C64 presumably animates the docking sequence. So I don't know how that works if you're under attack at the time. So the other thing that's quite useful about the docking computer is if you're in trouble, right, and you press the docking computer and the space station has its doors closed, because you can't see that visually on Elite, because you're a fugitive, you've been a bad boy. Then what you can, if you press the docking computer won't respond if you're not welcome at the space station, so you instantly know whether or not you can get into it or not. So that's also quite useful as well. Looks like a Python has just launched, so the Pythons are back. I don't know why it's always Pythons. I suppose they're big trading ships, right, in the original game. But it's always Pythons on the Spectrum that are launching out of the docking bay. And for those of you wondering, again, that frame rate, this is this is a genuine frame rate. This is what it looked like. Okay, so we're getting about how many frames per second is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 2.5 frames per second. So people complaining, oh, it's only 30 FPS. You don't know you're born, right? So we used to play games like, and to be honest, you did notice it slowing down, and you knew things could be a bit better, but to be honest, it never really bothered us all that. I don't remember it being a topic of discussion how slow the computers were. To be honest, and you can see how, particularly now that there's a sun, there's a Python over there. There's another one behind us, which is obviously not being drawn at the moment, but it is there. The computer's keeping track of it. You can see the frame rate suffers the more objects there are on the screen, right? And that's. But the game is still very playable, and you just, I don't know. Maybe it was, looking at it now, it does look pretty kind of dreadful, right? But back then this was sort of state of the art stuff. So you didn't really, you were, I suppose, you were grateful you could play a space game, right? So it never was a thing that we noticed much. I remember chatting with my mates in the school ground, and we would argue over the benefits of a beam laser versus a military laser, and we would argue over whether or not, which was the best trading one, and we would argue about whether the ASP was better than the Cobra and the Cobra was better than the Python and all that sort of stuff. But I don't remember us ever talking about the fact that the computers weren't fast enough to run the game properly. So it's interesting actually looking back on it. The frame rate now jumps out at me as a kind of like, is it really that slow? And I've tried it on my original Spectrum, and it is. This is very accurate. But it never bothered us at the time. Funny, really. Right, so Leesti. Now we can't buy the docking computer from DSO because DSO is not an advanced enough system. It doesn't sell it. So we have to go back to. We have to go back to Leesti to go and buy it, so we might as well take some stuff with us. 18 tons plus 15, 17, here we go. I suppose I ought to save the game at this point. Let's just do that. Let's do a quick save. There we go. So we don't lose progress. That's not a cheat, by the way. On the original versions of the 8-bit computers, you could save your position to tape. Right, it's a single-player game, so there's no multiplayer. I think, and I must remember to move my mouse off the screen. So I got told off for that on a couple of my videos. So apologies for that. I will do my best to remember it. I didn't realise the mouse shows up on the window capture, which I suppose it has to, right? Because you might be demoing something with the mouse. So apologies if you see the mouse left on the screen. Then do tell me off. Right, so up to full speed. Taurus. Oh, there's an asteroid. Now this would have been good if we'd had a mining laser, right? Because, and we'll do this at some point when we can buy the mining laser. It's worth shooting the asteroids because at the moment we get half a credit, but we do get a kill for that, right? So my original game still works after all this. Yes, it does. It's getting harder and harder each year to load it. The problem with the cassettes is that the magnetic tape, right, is slowly losing its signal to noise ratio. The signal to noise ratio is getting worse all the time. It does load at the moment, most times, and I've spent quite a lot of time making sure that the cassette player that I'm using is in good condition, and I'm only loading the cassette every few months now to try and preserve it. But it is getting worse. I've noticed it degrading, particularly in the last 5 years. It is getting worse and worse and worse each time. So I reckon maybe another decade, maybe 2, and I don't think the original cassette is going to load after that sort of point. The signal on the cassette it's just slowly fading away quality wise. So I have got digital recordings of it, so I can remaster it onto the cassette, assuming I've still got a cassette player, right? I can do all that sort of stuff, so there's no way that I'll lose the ability to play my original cassette. But the actual original recording on the original cassette is slowly just degrading with age. I'm afraid it's just one of those things. I mean, who expected, right? I mean, there's no way anybody in the 1980s expected people to still be using these computers, right? And I think it's a testament to their build quality. They still work, right? I mean, my ZX Spectrum is literally from 1982. It is one of the early ones, with the rubber keyboard. It's not one of the later ones with the full working keyboard, and it had a hard life for its first 10 years. It was a teenage boy's computer. It was kicked about and scratched and banged, and it's lost its original box, and it's been put in an attic for God knows how many years, and it's not been treated like an heirloom, that's for sure. It was a working device, and it served its it did a decade of hard labor, really, like most of them did. Now it still works. Okay, it's an electronic gadget which is in 2 years' time it will be 40 years old, and that's not bad. How many other things have you got in your house that are 40 years old, quite complicated, and still work, right? after having all those years, actually quite a lot of them. It's working, and that's a very good point. I mean, Kelvinator, you make it getting some of the older 8-bit computers to run can be hard, right? Can be hard, and one of the reasons for that is the the complexity of the parts in it. Now I don't know. I mean, if Stephen Usher was online, I'm not sure if he is today, but if Stephen Usher was online, he'd be able to talk, because he restores a lot of computers, right? And one of the biggest things that you have problems with is the capacitors. Okay, so capacitors are, for those of you not familiar with electronics, basically capacitors are little devices that allow you to store current temporarily, and they are electrolytic, and they're basically made up of little chemicals, right? It's definitely Python season here, making up there you are for you, Winnie. The capacitors basically they chemically break down over the years. Dampness, water gets into them slowly, and it breaks down the chemicals. And what tends to happen when you plug in old electronics from the 1980s era is you blow the capacitors. Okay, they will just go bang, and they go bang in quite a spectacular way, right? It's not super harmful, but you get this massive cloud of white smoke that pops out the back of whatever it is you've just plugged in, and it stinks. It really stinks. I've done this a couple of times on a few other bits and pieces. And you know, so those capacitors are a problem. Now, the good thing on the Spectrum is the Spectrum's design was crunched down to the minimum number of components. Clive Sinclair, when he designed it, was trying to make it as cheap as he possibly could, really, really cheap. Okay, and he did that by using you know, what they call the Universal Logical Array, a ULA. It's a special chip where you can put most of the computer's logic into a single chip. So where in the Spectrum, where in the BBC you had dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of chips, right, and capacitors and everything all over the shop to make the computer do its thing. On the Spectrum, you just look at it and think, well, there's hardly anything there. You know, the Spectrum board is tiny. I can probably show you the difference. Let me just see if I can get a browser up here for you. Just while we're talking about this little bit of retroness. So ZX Spectrum board. Let's just see if I can find you a picture of it. So there we go. There's quite a nice one. So let's just get that one up on the screen. So you can see here, if I just switch it to you, there we go. Right. So this is the Spectrum board, right? There we go. Let's just leave that, so we can still chat. that is the Spectrum board there. Okay, so here you can see there's the ULA. That's where most of the logic sits, right? You can see these, I think, are this is memory here. This is the converter for the screen, and these things here, you can see these are resistors. These are banks of resistors. This is actually the main processor. That's the Z80A chip. I don't know what this one did. Maybe that's, I'm not sure what that one's for, but that's the processor. That's the ULA where most of the logic sits. And these things here, these blue ones, are, and this one here, these little metallic containers here, these are the capacitors. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I can see 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, just quickly visually, maybe 13, 14, 15 capacitors, right? So those are the things that are really problematic on older electronics, okay? Those are really, really old. Now, someone's just sent me a link, actually, so let's just compare that to the C64 one. There's the C64 one, okay? So we've got capacitor, 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 capacitor. You can see each one of these little things here, these little brown things, those are capacitors as well, right? Okay, so you can see the resistors again, slightly more complicated circuit board. You can see the power supply itself there. I'm guessing that's the power supply. That's got capacitors in it too. There's a lot of capacitors here, right? Okay, so that gives you a thing. And if we can find the BBC micro motherboard image, there we go. So these are slightly hacked ones I'm seeing here, but let's try that one inside the BBC. There we go. Now you see the problem, right? This is the BBC BBC B motherboard, right? And you can see the number of capacitors, right? Each one of these little brown things is a capacitor, and they are literally everywhere on this board, right? That's a resistor. You can see resistors because they will have the stripes. There are there's a big capacitor there, but these little brown things everywhere you're seeing one, those, you know, they're capacitors, right? Now that gives you a problem because the capacitors are the things that give up the ghost after about 30, 40 years, right? And then this thing called recap, okay, is a thing. So recapping old electronics is a big deal, right? Because you've got to replace, basically you desolder the old capacitor, replace it with a modern one. So the barrel ones are problematic. Okay, so the brown ones are ceramic and they're external. Okay, so those ones are okay. All right, so it's basically recapping the ones that are volatile, right? And so you need to recap your old electronics because otherwise they're just going to go vzzt, literally in a puff of white smoke. And at this age of electronics now, after 40 years later, simplicity makes things easier, right? Because there's less to go wrong. And that's why you tend to see more spectrums. It's a generic thing, right? But you tend to see more spectrums running than some of the other computers, partly because they were a lot of them sold, but partly because they're more robust, simply because they're simpler. It's as simple as that. You know, that's one of the reasons why you tend to see more working spectrums than some of the older ones, simply because of quantity and the fact that the Spectrum was ruthlessly optimized, because back in the day, right, the less chips you had on that motherboard, the less complex the motherboard was, the cheaper it was to make. So the Spectrum was selling for just over £100, whereas the BBC was selling for like 300. Okay, and that's a massive difference in price, and also from a perspective of the person buying it, right? You know, one computer for 300, one computer for 100. You can see why people were making economic decisions about it. So all those things count, right? But it's all, I mean, it's all historical now. But I think it's still impressive that stuff still works, right? How many computers from today, how many mobile phones, for example, are going to be working and doing, potentially still doing something vaguely useful, 40 years from now? I don't think it's going to be many, right? And looking at, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this is my phone. Let's just switch to the. And I've actually got a Spectrum emulator on this, so I'll show you this. This is quite cool. So this is my phone. It's perfectly. I think it's a Samsung Galaxy. I don't know what it is. Samsung S5 or S4, some S6. I'm not sure what it is. And it completely blows away the Spectrum in any meaningful sense. Right, higher display, loads more power. Probably kills a PC of 5 years ago. But the nice thing is I've got the spectacular emulator on here, and look, you can. Reset to basic. There we go. Look, I can. Oh, I can just try to get it so my camera's not doing anything. There we go. Look, it's running a Spectrum emulator, which I think is very cool. So you can do Spectrum stuff on the move if you are so inclined. But will this? I mean, it's not repairable, right? I mean, this is a totally sealed phone. There's no way to get inside it without special tools and stuff. Will the expertise to keep this running? Will there be any want to run something like this, retro mobile phone gaming in like 40 years time? Who knows? I mean, maybe they will. I don't know. Yeah, it might be cool, right? We'll find out when we get there. The only problem is when this is 40 years old, I will be. That's another 40 years now. I'm going to be 90, so whether I will still be streaming, who knows, right? But we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Anyway, right, that's nothing to do with what we're supposed to be doing. Some of the earlier phones, I've still got a Nokia. I'm not sure which one it is. What's the banana one? The one that came out in response to the Matrix film. Is that the 3310 or not? That's the one I've got. I've still got that, and I'm keeping that because it's cool, because it goes pop, and you could pretend to be Neo, which I think just makes me laugh. But anyway, we'll see when we get there, right? But it's nice that these computers are still, and we can emulate them, right? I guess we'll be able to emulate old operating systems as well. When we get extinct, our geological record will be the Nokias. That's definitely the case. Right, so let's get some fuel. Let's always buy our cargo to make sure that we have. Right, we are in Leesti, aren't we? Just check that I'm in the right place. Yeah, so let's fill up the cargo bay with everything that we need to carry. Well, actually, shall we? Yes, we should. That was 29 tons, 6. Right, we've got 2,000 cash left, right? So that is enough to buy us the docking computer. So let's buy the docking computer. Docking computers are 11. There we go. Item 11. So spent a lot of money, but we now have docking computers. Yes. Now we need to make a bit more money to get the extra energy, and then I think we can change our gameplay style a bit, right? Because we'll have a ship that's fierce enough to fight off some of those, and we can go and do some other stuff just short for the mine layer. So maybe we'll try and get the extra energy in the mine layers. That's today's objective, and I hope we can get those fairly soon because we've got enough cash. Let's do the quick save, and let's head back to DSO because I want to get away from this milk run, right? We've been doing this for a couple of streams. But we can also go scavenging with this hunt of this ship, right? We can go and look for stuff. We can take on some pirates and pinch their cargo, or maybe we could be bad boys, right? Go and ambush some traders. We could start being naughty, which might be fun. See what the game does. Right, so there's another ship. That's a small ship. Let's find out what that is. It's probably a third. Oh, no, it's quite small. Maybe a third lance. Let's find out what the ship is. I don't recognise it yet. It's going to slow down as it goes past. It is. Oh, it's a Viper. Yeah, there we go. It's a Viper. That's a police ship in the original League. But we can use our docking computer. I'm just trying to remember, what's the docking computer key? I can't remember. It's C, I think, on this version. Notice how I can't jump drive at the moment until till that ship is out of range, disappears off the scanner. And there's a little, I don't know if this is the same on the BBC or the Commodore 64, is the scanner on the Spectrum version doesn't quite go to the visual range. You have, there's a period where the ship is still on the screen, but the scanner can't see it. So I don't know if that's the same on the BBC on the C64. It was also a slight nuisance on the Spectrum because sometimes you were mass locked, but you couldn't see anything on the scanner, so you didn't know which way to fly away from it. Didn't take me long to stop trading. I needed the cargo space to pick up the stuff dropped by my victims. Yeah, so I think we'll do it. We'll do that. So there's a Cobra again. Fairly recognisable, that one. Even though I know how it works and spent a lot of time playing all the 8-bit versions, it still blows my mind how they managed to cram it in. It is an impressive thing, isn't it? Because I mean, I remember I was talking to Kate Russell about this on Thursday on my other stream, and you look at this and say, okay, so this is a computer. This Spectrum is a 48K Spectrum, which actually means it's only got 32K of available memory, right? Because 16K of it's gone. In fact, it's even less than that because you need other various bits and pieces. But say 32K for simplicity's sake. But what you realise in here that this is Galactic Chart 1, and there are 256 stars on that chart, right? There are 8 galactic charts in Elite, so that is already 2048, I think it is 2048 stars, right? So with my kind of teenage hat on when I'm 14, I'm going, okay, so there's 2048 stars. Each star has a description, right? Which tells you all about it. And there's a fair bit of text on that screen, right? And when you multiply that amount of text by that amount of stars, you end up with more memory than the computer actually has. And then you're thinking, well, not only is it stored that, but there's a game here as well, right? So where's it storing all the graphics? And then I remember being befuddled by this as a teenager, saying, well, how does it do that? Because there is more stuff in the game than there's physically space for in the computer. And yet, clearly it works, right? Alien, good to see you. Thank you very much. Good to see you. And so there's, when you work it out that way, I think there's about 100K's worth of content apparently in a 32K space. And you're kind of going, huh? And I remember very distinctly at about the age of 14, because I knew how to program a computer a bit, right? I've been learning BASIC, I've been doing assembly code and all this sort of stuff. And I couldn't figure out, by looking at the game, how it was done. And I remember asking my dad, because he was a computer programmer, he was an electronics expert, I said, Dad, how does this work? And he looked at it, and he looked at the gap, and he said, well, there's 8 of those, so that's this. And he basically got his calculator out and went, oh, yeah, within about 30 seconds, he'd figured out the problem that I was sort of wrestling with. And he went, don't know how they've done that. That's clever. He says, they've done something clever there. Which was code for my dad, basically. No, I don't know either, son. But yeah, they've done something very clever there. That's very good. So what he managed to do, because my dad was he was interested as well, and he knew how to disassemble. Right, hang on, just before we do that. Now I think we've got the S right, so I can press C, and instantly I'm transported into the space station. Docking computers on. There we go. So that's it as far as the ZX Spectrum special effects are concerned for the docking gear. But you can see massive time saver, right? So there we go. 29 tons of cash. We have got loads of money again, so we've got enough money to keep making money, right? And no more pythons. Well, we might hang around space. Winnie's going to miss the pythons. So now we do need to go back. So let's just do a few more of these milk runs. That leaves us a bit of space actually. We could buy the extra energy unit, but I want to make sure we've got enough cash for things at the other end. Let's just wait for a moment on that. Do the quick save. There we go. So my dad figured out that something clever was being done here, right? So he knew how to disassemble the Spectrum memory. So he managed to download. I don't quite know how he did it actually. He managed to extract the memory of the Spectrum using an interface to another computer that we had, and so we could have a look at the code. And so I knew a bit about Z80 source code, machine code, as it was called, and he could read it basically because he was used to programming at that level on all sorts of different microprocessors, and so he took me through the elite code at the age of 14 and explained how it worked, and it didn't take him long to figure out. I just remember when he went and he told me how the procedural generation worked, right? And you take a mathematical concept which allows you to recreate things in a predictable fashion. As much as you like, right? You can keep doing it over and over again, but the key thing is that none of those planet descriptions, none of those locations, not even the layout of the galactic map, none of it's stored in the game. It's calculated when you press the key, and it's calculated from a very, very small string of numbers and a mathematical formula known as the Fibonacci sequence. And that little bit of genius is one of the things that makes Elite so amazing, right? He was able to show me what the code did, and I remember thinking, and he went, oh, they're using a sequence here, and then we were able to look it up, and much later on I found it was the Fibonacci sequence. So my dad really knew those sort of things. It was quite cool. Let's just take this out. So that's when I realised how clever the programmers has been, and huge respect to both David Braben and Ian Bell for that. I don't know which one of them was the Fibonacci sequence idea, or whether it was kind of a collaboration. But a clever genius move, right? Because then you've suddenly got a universe that can be as big as you need it to be. Absolutely fantastic. So that was how that was done, right? None of that stuff is actually stored in the game. It's calculated by the computer as you press the button, which is very clever. Which is very clever indeed. Much later on, I discovered, actually reading about the design of the game, was that David Braben and Ian Bell apparently had the hundreds and hundreds of you just get there hundreds and hundreds of galaxies, right? And then apparently they were told to constrict it down to just 8 to make the game. Otherwise, they said the game would just be ridiculously, enormously huge. So that's why we ended up with 8 galaxies. You could have actually done a lot more, over and over and over and over again. But they deliberately constricted it to 8. And they had the problem, because with procedural generation, you don't always know what it's going to generate. You get the mythical world of arse, as Frank Miner's talked about, is apparently. So Alien, they could have done hundreds of galaxies, because each galaxy is just generated from a seed, right? So none of those galaxies are stored. So they've deliberately limited it to 8. They could have had 256 galaxies, okay? Because that's the biggest integer that you can use on the 8-bit computers. So they could have had 256 galaxies of 256 stars each, but they've deliberately not done that. That's a design choice. So did the planet names require 3 syllables? No, they don't. If you look at the planet map, you can see that some of them are only 2: Deso and Lave. So basically, when the computer was assembling, you had small bits of words like D, so, la, v, or, e, etc., 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 right? And some of them were 4, like read quat, r, ed, qua, at. And these small bits of text were cleverly designed so that they could be the beginning and the end of words, right? That would make them vaguely pronounceable, which is why you get these very, very strange names, right? The computer would, according to the Fibonacci sequence, would put all these things together, hence, these things were generated. Now, these are all totally, effectively random names, and what David Braben and Ian Bell had to do was to basically see which galaxies looked nice. So they effectively auditioned each of the galaxies and went through them. They had to go through them and remove dodgy words like arse, which did occasionally crop up. And they also had to make sure the game was playable. So that one of the other things is there's a 7 light year jump range in the game, which you can't do anything about, which means that on some of the galactic charts that get generated in this fashion, some places you can't reach because they're outside the 7 light year jump range. There's no way to get to those stars. There is, in fact, one star. We might try and go there actually and we'll have to crash our save and get back out. There's one planet in Galactic Chart 8, which if you end up going to it, you can't get out because of that problem. They didn't check that far or that carefully. So in Galactic Chart 8, there is a planet which I nicknamed the planet at the end of the universe, right? And there should be a restaurant there, really. But it's a planet where you can the only way to get to it, you can't get to it from anywhere in Galactic Chart 8 by normal hyperspace. The only way to get to it is to be in approximately the right location in Galactic Chart 7, and then use a galactic hyperspace jump to get to it. That's the only way to get to it. The problem being that at that system, there isn't a high enough economy to buy another galactic hyperspace jump in order to get you back out again. So at that point, you're marooned. So there's no point really going there. There's nothing. Unfortunately, there's nothing special there in the game. But that you're trapped. You can't get out. So that's just a little bit of elite trivia for you. In Galactic Chart 8, there is a planet you can't get out of, and unless you know how to get into it, you can't get into it either. So it's quite a nice little mysterious planet that's completely cut off from the rest of the universe because of the design of the game. So that's a thing. I've totally forgotten what we're doing. Right, we have food and textiles. Right, we're in Leesti. We should be selling them. Right, let's do that. 16 tons of those. Right, so we've got a bit of money. Let's buy our fuel. Let's buy our cargo. Let's buy the cargo. Dum 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 dum. How much money have we got left after we bought the cargo? So if I buy too much more of that, then right. So let's hold fire on that because I want to buy this. Do I want to buy the mining laser or do I want to buy the energy unit? Let's buy the mining laser because then we can do another cargo run. Right, I'm going to put this one on the rear. Okay, and let's buy some more machinery then. Make that 5. How many have I got? 8. Cargo, no. 7, no. 6. There we go. Right, so we're full of that. And now we've also got a mining laser on the back. We haven't got any cargo space yet. Quick save that, and let's crack on. So we're almost ready to get away. Hotel California planet, said Kelly Baglow. Yeah, so it is kind of like that. Well, that's interesting. Like the sun is behind the planet. So actually, this is something that the game still does quite well. And I used to muck about with this a little bit. Now you'll laugh because there we go. Now we've got crosshairs on the rear view display, right? So we have a mining laser, which I'll show you how that works in a bit. If I look, the sun there is actually technically not visible, right? Because it's behind the planet. So what you can do on the Spectrum version, and on all the 8-bit elites, is if you angle it the right direction, about there, and then rotate round, we should be able to see. There we go. We can see the planet and the sun outside of the rear view window, other side window. If I just angle the ship correctly, there we go. Right, now if I now accelerate, the planet will shift a little bit, and because the computer is mapping where the star's further away, right? And so we get sunrise. There we go. There is sunrise on the ZX Spectrum Elite, right? There's the sun peering over the edge of the planet, right? Now it's not all that spectacular, but I remember at the time, thinking that was quite cool, right? You know, there I'm seeing sunrise of star over the planet, and little things like that are just, they're nice, right? I think they're nice. Right, anyway, so back to these. There we go. And we'll continue on with our journey. Now we're getting there, right? The mining laser. Now I'm hopeful we will get an asteroid on the way in this time. Oh, I've left the mouse on the screen again. Come on, give us an asteroid. Right, okay, we've got Para instead. Right, I might be able to show you the defensive. Let's see how this goes. Let's target a missile, just in case. This looks like it's a Cobra again. Let's just take it out. Boom. Right, so there we go. That was easy. Yeah, you can always tell it's a Cobra. You always get 17.5 credits for a Cobra. Now, interesting enough, in the original Elite, the law says that you instantly get awarded the money because your kills are effective. There's a camera on your ship which instantly informs the I don't know who it is. I can't look it up. Galcop. I don't think it is Galcop actually. Anyway, whoever's responsible for the ranking system, I should know that off the top of my head, but I'm going to have to look it up in the book at some point. Whoever's responsible for the ranking system instantly gets confirmation of your kill because of a camera on board your ship, and you get credited instantly, right? I'm not. Is it Galcop? It might be Galcop. I can't remember. WK Jez, good to see you. Good morning. Well, good morning, wherever you are. It's good afternoon here, but good to see you anyway. So anyway, so in the original Elite, you instantly get credited, right? You haven't got to go back to the space station to get. You haven't got to go back to the space station to do that. I'm curious now, right, Winnie? I'm going to go and look it up. So excuse me a moment. I'll be back. I just have to climb under the green screen. Right, so here, there we go, original Elite. Let's just see what it says in the manual about that, because there's something about it. So, combat protocol, right? Maneuvering, signs of danger, pirate vessels, aggressive weapons, pulse laser, blah 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 blah, missiles. That tells you all about the. That's interplanetary. Let's just go. There's a lot of stuff in the manual actually. I mean, it's got all sorts of bits and pieces here. So I do remember it being something. Right, Space Orbit Authority. No. I'm gonna have to find it. It's in here somewhere. Lave Space Orbit Authority. We talk about that. So that's flying around. That's signed. That's interplanetary travel. Where does it talk about the ratings? So that's intergalactic trading, free space, political profile of the universe, etc., etc., etc. That's so it must be in this section here. There's something about it. I do recall. I may not be able to find it. I may need to go and look it up afterwards so we don't get done too boring. Because it should talk about the payment in here somewhere. Right. It's talking about the type of Thargons, other space type. That tells you about your lasers. Shields and energy banks. Uncombated equipment. Well, I don't know. It's in there somewhere. I'm going to have to find it. I'll have a bit more of a read of the manual at some point. There's something. You might be absolutely right, and it might be Galcop, but I got a feeling it was something else. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the original books are fantastic. I mean, by the way, I mean, in the game it's just a pulse laser, right? But in the manual, it's not just a pulse laser, right? The pulse laser was, and I'm reading direct from the book here, right? It was an Ingram model 1919 A4 pulse laser, is the recommended fitting for all positional laser mounts. And apparently it fires intermittent laser rods, which are 610 millimeters in length, with a cycle rate of 1500 ROPM. Whatever that is. And the barrel is made of high-grade alutium fibre lined with tempered Q-coryllium silica, and power provided directly from inverse energy banks contained in the main ship's drive. Each rod is capable of piercing 267 millimeters of flux-locked metal. What? It's just great detail. Now the beam laser, by the way, the beam laser that we've currently got is an Ingram model M1928A2. And is highly recommended for front shooting, right? So beam lasers fire parallel continuous laser strands up to 150 in parallel. The barrel is alutium plus, aligned with tensioned plexiglass, and as with the pulse laser, power is provided by the main drive link. But beam lasers are capable of slicing through 410 millimeters of flux-locked metal. It's all these details in here, right? It's all complete nonsense, but it's great, right? It's great extra detail. And there wasn't space in the game to put that sort of detail in. Now, the manual was written also, at least a lot of it, was also written by Robert Holstock, who's the guy who wrote the novel that went with the game. So all that sort of extra detail is a writer, peppering funky stuff around the game, right? And the manual is amazing, right? So where are we? We're in DSO. We've just docked, haven't we? Right, so let's sell those computers. Right, there we go. like that. We got 3,000 cash. We want to go back to Leesti. We want to get our fuel. Let's fill up with the classic stuff there. Oh, I think I only bought 1 ton there. Let's do that again. Yep, there we go. That gives us a full. Right, save the game at that point. Go back to Leesti. We are getting there now. We'll be able to do something a bit more interesting. There we go. There we go. So Tuplex has found it. What page was that, Tuplex? TSCom director nearest Galcop Centre. So you were all right. It was Galcop, says Winnie. Well done. You're rating as in their combateer. So there's some sort of I don't know, subspace link or something, right? Your kills are photographed and transmitted by TSCom director, the nearest Galcop Federal Law Center. So you were right, it was Galcop. But I do remember that TSCom. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but it was that, right? So in Elite, in the original game, there's none of this handing your things in, right? It's transmitted to the nearest Galcop Center. So in some ways, it's more, you know, in the law, the technology is more sophisticated in this era because you instantly get credited with your kills, right? There you go. You found it on Ian Bell's website. Well done. Which is a great website, by the way. It's sort of stuck in the 90s. That website, but so it's got a retro vibe, you know, as a website perspective. But it's full of all sorts of interesting stuff, right? And you can download lots of emulable, you know what I mean? Versions of Elite what you can play on emulators. You know, from that website on all sorts of different platforms, so you can play the original Elite and you can play various different 8-bit and 16-bit versions. It's quite cool. So Galcop and Federal doesn't mess with. Well, actually, Galcop is something that I will be covering in the Law Tour. So if you want to, I'm just trying to remember when I'm doing it. Let me just look it up. Annoyingly now, it's quicker to type into Google Drew Wager Law Tour than it is to actually to find it on my website. So we are going to talk about Lave and everything associated with it. Not next week, but the week after that. The rise and fall of Galcop. Okay, now Galcop did exist in the universe of Elite Dangerous. But it no longer does. Okay, so it's a historical organisation in the time of Elite Dangerous, but it is still part of the law, right? So bear that in mind, and we'll talk a little bit about that in an upcoming Law Tour. That's going to be quite good fun. And yeah, Winnie's found Elite the musical, which is well, all I can say is it's an experience. It's very odd. So yeah, do check that out. There's some wacky stuff on that website. I've never met Ian Bell. I've never even talked to him, unfortunately. I hope to have that privilege at some point in the future. But it's you know, he's an interesting chap. You look at the About Him page, and you sort of get a sense of the guy. He's quite eccentric is probably the right word, I would say, which I quite enjoy actually, because I you know, eccentricism works well for me. And I've got something heading directly towards me. That looks like a python. Yeah, it is a python. So we're going for a head-on course, right? It should bank away. Yeah, it does. There it goes. Only just though. So Drew should play some on the spin. Maybe I should take another look at it. Yeah. So anyway, so that's, you know, so in Elite you get credited instantly, right? Right. Let's take out this asteroid. Oh, I should. Oh, damn! I should have used the mining laser. Duh. Never mind. We'll do that next time. Yeah. So Galcop did exist. We'll go into that on the Law Tour. Yeah, that's a piece of the law that we can cover in a bit of detail actually in the ED universe. Question from Kelly Baglaw there: why do you get credited with kills even when you're a fugitive? Well, Galcop is an interesting organisation. I think is the way to structure that one. It basically does enforce the you know, the status. Basically, if you're a fugitive and you approach a space station, then you will get attacked by vipers, as we saw, right? I wasn't even a fugitive. I'd accidentally shot an anaconda, and the vipers took a very dim view of that, and I had to run away. That is a problem. But it seems that you know, regardless of who you kill, the elite ranking is sacred in elite, right? It doesn't matter whether you do it by fair means or foul. It's just you're okay, right? So you get credit for killing people, which well, you get kill credit, should I say? If you assassinate a trading vessel, you don't get any money, but you obviously get any cargo it might drop. So yeah, that's sort of how I think. But you get credited in terms of your ranking for anything you kill, no matter whether or not it is predetermined. So it's just a kill metric, but you don't get any money for assassinating innocent ships, which is probably a good thing. I like the Viper Mark 1 design. Yeah, it's nice and simple, isn't it, Alien? I like that. So Galcop is more like the Galactic Wrecking Ball. Yeah, I think so. Galcop isolated itself from the Feds and the Empire. So yes, so there's a whole bunch of the story about that. Now most of that stems out of Frontier Elite 2, which again we'll talk about on the Lore Tour. But that's when we first start finding out about what happened to Galcop and realise it's a historic organisation by that point. It's collapsed. But we'll go into the history of why that happened and how it happened on the Lore Tour. But in elite, just elite, it is basically the organisation in which you exist. Now they only have jurisdiction in space because you can't land on the planets. Basically, the law says at this time that planet landing is illegal. You're not allowed to land on planets. You can only fly around in space. So that's why elite is kind of the way it is. Right, so we've got the rear mind. Where are we? We're in Leesti. Right, so let's get our cargo again. Keep making money. Right, okay, so we've got enough there to do the thing. Let's leave that space out. Let's go and buy the extra energy unit, right? So that gives us our ship. That's 10. There we go. Okay, not much money left, but we've got a full cargo now. Okay, so now we are in a good place, right? We have the large cargo bay, we have the fuel scoops, we have the ECM system, energy unit. And I'll show you how that works. Docking computers, which gives us some time saving, front beam laser, and the rear mining laser. We now have quite a decent trading vessel. Okay, it can defend itself, it can run. It's in a good place. So quick save. So I'm pretty happy with that ship. Now, what we could do at this point, let's go back to Lave. Okay, let's go back to Lave instead of going back to DSO. Let's go back to Lave, which is where we started from. Now, Lave, as you may remember, is a dictatorship, tech level 5, right? So it's a much more dangerous place to go, right? My financial situation is like a rating 4. Yes, it is. Well, I've got a cargo hold full of stuff, right? Okay. Now, I've deliberately left a bit of cargo space this time. They've currently got 29 tons of computers, which is a tasty cargo for the pirates to come and get us, right? So we may run into trouble on this trip because Lave is quite a dangerous place in Elite. It's not super dangerous, but it's pretty dangerous. Okay, but we've got 6 spare tons of space where we can potentially, get some other stuff. So let's see how it goes, right? We're going to go back to Lave instead of DSO and see how we do with our funky new ship. Now, let me just explain how the energy unit works. You notice we've got, when I first played the game, I assumed I'd get another energy unit, right? But it doesn't work like that. So we still have our 4 energy units. The extra energy units basically means that they recharge faster. So if I hit the ECM a few times and just drain the energy banks down a bit, what you'll notice is that when it gets there, now if I let it off, you'll notice that it will recharge much faster, twice as fast as before. Okay, that's what the extra energy unit does. Still not doing the Eisenhower Q2, not yet. No, we're almost there. We'll do some of those. But that's basically what the extra energy unit does. It basically recharges things faster so that you can get your shields up quicker, you've got more energy to fight with, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so it's a big deal for the ship at this point, right? It makes it much more effective in combat. So let's go back to Lave. See how we do. Now, what we may do is that the game will start scaling up the baddie guys now, okay? Because Lave is quite dangerous. We will probably get multiple pirates. We may get some of the pirates with beam lasers. All the pirates we've seen so far only have pulse lasers. So some of the pirates certainly in the Spectrum version of it, I don't know about whether this is true on the C64 and the BBC, but some of the pirates on the Spectrum version do have, and there's a pirate already, right? haven't even got into jump drive. The pirates on the Spectrum version, some of them do have beam lasers, and it's like a bit of a shock when you first encounter one of those, because your shields go down like virtually straight away, and that can be a problem. Now I don't know what ship that looks like. An asp. I don't need to worry about the missiles as long as it. There we go. ECM. See the Spectrum now struggling frame rate, but notice how quickly my energy banks now recharge. Okay, so all I have to do is evade for a little bit, and then by the time he's back in the position where he can do some damage to me, usually my shields are on the way back up, or I'm on the offensive, which is good. And I can get back on his tail. Now the asp will actually outrun my Cobra, so I hit him really hard. Right, now we've got some stuff. I'm going to scoop one of these up. Now this is debris, right? And I can pick these up and get them as alloys. I know it's just like 4 lines, but it's a ship panel, right? So you can actually scoop up the debris of other ships. And if I get that right, there we go. We've got some alloys. Okay, so that's, you know, don't know how much alloys are worth. Let's find out. What's the price listing? Okay, well it's 40 credits, right? So that's worth doing. You can't change ships. Can you change ships? No, you can't change ships in the original game. You're stuck with a Cobra Mark III. Right, so now, okay, so this is the game ramping up. Okay, 2 pirates simultaneously. So the trick with this is to engage one of them and try and stay out of the range of the other one. Try and kill the first one as quickly as you can, so the other one stays out of range while you're thing. So maintain full throttle until you're quite close. That's a sidewinder. Got him. So it doesn't have very strong shields, and you can see how effective the beam laser is, right? Then you can go and get the other one, and hopefully you've got dealt with the first one before you got rid of the last one. So the game is now. So this is 2 sidewinders. Quite often you'll find that they will try and bracket you like that on the Spectrum version. That is very common. The sidewinder is also faster than the Cobra in Elite. So your Cobra is sort of, in terms of its performance capabilities, it's absolutely bang in the mid-range. It's more powerful than these smaller ships, but it does have some disadvantages because they can dictate parts of the battle because they can run away. Some of them, and the sidewinder is one of the ones that can run away. Boom, got him. Right, now I think this is an asteroid that's just appeared, so we can try some mining. Okay, let's do some mining. Now on the Spectrum version, you saw the bracketing. There were 2 ships. You will see occasionally, you will see in the Anarchy systems, you can get 4 or 5 ships, right? We'll do that. So that looks like an asteroid. Now what you need to do, I've got the mining laser on the back, right? So I'm going to flip the ship over, get onto the rear view, and now the controls are, that is moving quite fast actually. Now I've lost it. I can see it there. I'm trying to react to it on the scanner. There we go. And then I've got to be careful because it's now. What I've got to do with this laser, because the controls are now backwards, I've got to hit it twice with a. There we go. Right, hit it twice with the mining laser. Then it splits into 2 pieces, right? And I can scoop those up. So that's mining. This is mining on the Spectrum. There's another ship there, which I don't think is going to cause many problems. But the problem you have here is that you have to get the pieces before they drift off your scanner range, which they do move at quite a lick, actually. You can see it. Right, so there's a fragment of an asteroid. Got to slow down for the scooping. And it should, I don't know what it, there we go, minerals we get. And there's another one over there. That Cobra is a friendly one, so I'm just going to ignore that. There's the second one. Let's just see how much we get for that. So minerals are worth 10 credits, so there's not actually all that good value, but it's just, again, something you can do. So mining is you know, you can do stuff with mining, but it's not particularly profitable. But it's relatively low risk. Because if you do come across an asteroid and you fancy it, then that's what you do basically. So that was it, right? That was mining. On the ZX Spectrum version. Do I still have cargo space? Yes, I had a little bit. I deliberately left a little bit so we could do that. Yeah, and Frank Miner's quite right. Is what you used to do on the Spectrum version. If you had it with a joystick, you turn the joystick around, right, and then your rear view, your joystick would operate the right way around for the rear view, which was quite cool, right? So there were lots of little things like that we all figured out pretty quickly that was a way of getting around it. But I'm using the keyboard on this, so I can't really do that. The main thing of the anacondas, yes, you've got to be a little bit careful because anacondas and asteroids on these 8-bit versions are quite hard to distinguish. And we did encounter an anaconda in the early part of the game, and shot that up, and it launched shipsatters, which is not nice. Okay, so we're doing all right here in Lave. There's another ship. That's probably a Viper, I'm guessing. Find out as it goes past. So slow down. Oh no, it's a Ferdinand. There we go. Which is a nice ship. So it's not quite low temperature diamonds. No, not a 10. But you know what you'd notice actually, sometimes you can just go out. Okay, so we managed to get some alloys at 41 tons. That's worth doing. Minerals in Lave here are pretty cheap, right? So it's not the best place to sell them, but other places they'll be better, right? You know, not great, but you can see, right? You can see in ED where the thinking's come from. Like, all these mechanics are virtually the same, right? You shoot things up, you pick them up. You shoot ships, you grab their stuff, right? You know, even the jump drive is sort of a bit like the frameshift drive, right? Didn't some rocks drop gold? I don't know. The cargo that you get from ships is random as far as I'm concerned. That will occasionally give you a problem, right? Because you may be lucky or unlucky, depending on how you view things. You may be unlucky enough to pick up something illegal. So if you pick up some narcotics, quite often those are illegal, right? Slaves are illegal as well, right? So, well, you know, scooping them up isn't, but selling them is. And so you may give yourself a fugitive status by those kind of cargoes, right? So those dynamics are in this game. As well. So we can sell our computers there, we can sell the alloys that we scooped up, and we can also sell the minerals. So you know, we're in reasonable shape. There we go. Right, so we've now got that here in Lave. Now we want to, where is the Qtari? I think that's quite a way off, right? Is that how do you spell it? Qtiri. I spelled it wrong. I've forgotten how to do it now. My muscle memory kicked in there. Is it F or P? No. R. There we go. Qtiri. So this is like Inara, right? But for there we go. Okay, so we can do that one to Eisnor. Where's Eisnor? Eisnor is. So this is one of the early. Okay, so well, this is good. We can head out in that direction. So let's go some other places and just sort of see how things go along, right? So we're going to take a little bit of a trip now. Now we are going to head off to the first place we need to go is Zeonce, which is, according to the game, a tedious place. So let's go there. Oh, let's do a quick save, just to be good, just in case we run into any trouble. So we're going to head off now. We've done our milk run. We're going to do some different stuff. So let's hyperspace to Zeonce. Didn't see any gold in the asteroids. Maybe I gave up mining originally. I don't remember seeing any gold. No, I think you only ever get minerals. At least that's my recollection of the Spectrum version. Now, what I might as well do here, rather than actually stop, well, let's go and do some fuel scooping, right? Let's go to the sun. Now, in Elite, on the Spectrum version at any rate, there's no way to know exactly where the sun is. Oh, we've got a pirate coming in, which is interesting because we haven't got any cargo. So there it is. Let's see what we've got here. Too far away to shoot. They're really hard to hit when they're just a dot. Oh, it's an asp again. I'm going to do a preemptive ECM there. There it goes. can see the XOR writing of the screen there, so you can still see the enemy even though he's in front of the sun. There we go. We could pick up, well, let's pick up one because it's here, right? I'm not going to spend too much time with the alloys. Because we want to get to the star, right? And it's not the fastest way to refuel on Elite because it can take you a long time to get to the sun because of all the pirates, right? But eventually, there we go, we're getting to range. Now, notice you'll see the cabin temperature, the CT indicator on the bottom left part of the display, right, is increasing as we get closer and closer to the star. Now, we have to get quite close before the fuel scoops kick in. Yeah, according to the law, the pirates used to... There we go, fuel scoops are on. We have to keep moving forward, but we can now slow down. We're fuel scooping, right? Okay, fuel scoops are on. You'll notice the fuel level, FU, there is going up. There's a ship ahead of us as well, interesting enough. So, you know, you will encounter ships close to the sun. I think it's... Yeah, it seems to be relative to how fast you travel. So the faster you go, the faster your fuel scoops. Now, you have to be a bit careful because... You can see now I've got a flashing red light as I've got the cabin temperature is rising. It's going down a bit now. So you've got the same sort of mechanic as you have in Elite. You've got to manage your distance to the star, and if, of course, if I get too hot, then I will cook. So I've got to be a bit careful here. I'm getting a bit too close. So I'm going to fly away from the star. There we go. And it's now burning up the back screen. Fuel scoops are still on at this point. Cabin temperature is dropping. So what I tend to do is when I found a happy medium, I tended to fly in circles. Well, fuel scoops have just gone back off. Right, there's fuel scoops back on. Let's travel that way for a moment and then keep sort of flying in circles for a bit. Basically scooping the fuel. It takes quite a long time to get the fuel up, as you can see. And now it's just... Fuel scoops back on. It's not a perfect implementation. There we go. We're almost done. And then I've got like a full tank of fuel. But as you can see, it takes quite a while to fill up, and then I'll cook the ship again. So you have got those same sort of dynamics. Now, actually, it looks like I've got a pirate closing on me. So this is an occupational hazard. As you can be attacked while you're fuel scooping, which is what this guy's doing. I've got to be a bit careful here because I need to get some distance away from the star so that I don't accidentally maneuver into high temperatures. The NPC ships are unaffected by the NPC ships are unaffected by the heat, so they don't suffer. They can't be destroyed. So it's only you. You have to worry about that. Yeah. Honk the system. I haven't got an FSS button on this version of the game. There is only one planet. Right, so now I can engage whoever this is. Let's try and get rid of this guy. Oh, it's another asp. These aren't too bad. Right. You've wrestled around the wrong guy here, my friend. Oh, if I could hit him. There we go. There's no way, of course, on these early versions of Elite to tell how far down the enemy shields are. You just have to keep hitting them until they die. Oh, I've overheated my... That's the problem with the beam laser. It overheats really fast. You can see I've cooked the... There we go. I cooked the laser temperature there. Right, so now we've refueled. We can just go directly to Tir Nizla, right? So I want to take you to Tir Nizla because Tir Nizla is a key place in the lore. And then we can hyperspace out directly from here. We haven't got to go to the space station, so we can refuel in deep space, which is handy if you are a fugitive and you can't get into the space station, right? So that's, I presume, one of the reasons why the dynamic is there. Now, the Tir Nizla system is, of course, mentioned in the Dark Wheel, and there's supposed to be a spaceship graveyard here. And the first time I jumped into the Tir Nizla system, I fully expected the graveyard to be there, but of course it isn't there, right? It's just flavor text that was added to the game. in the Dark Wheel. So there is nothing actually special about the Tina system in the game. There are no in Elite. There are no extra assets kind of put in for certain areas. You just couldn't do that in those days. You just get the game. The only additions are the missions, right? So Tirnizla is the same as everywhere else, other than it's a world very notable for its inhabitants' ingrained shyness. But in the lore, there's a spaceship graveyard here, right? Which is quite cool. But we can go on to Eisenor now. This trading route here. So Eisenor is a rich agricultural planet, which is a confederacy, so it's reasonably safe. Kutiri, as I recall, is a multi-government rich industrial. Okay, so this is a good trade route. So we can go to either of them first. Actually, we're in range of either. So let's go to Kutiri first. Hyperspace, and we'll go to the station this time. So this is the next stage of your elite journey, right? You start going to slightly more interesting places, and then you upgrade your ship. Now there are pirates about, as you can see, but I've actually noticed occasionally the S is flickering on. So if I line it up correctly, I can cheat. There we go. It's kind of an exploit, right? Even though I'm under attack, I can just angle the ship around until the S comes on, and then I get that. And look, my rating is up. I'm now average. I'm making progress. So let's get some fuel. I think I've got a few bits and pieces. So 1 ton of alloys is all I've got to sell. Not really very much. But no, look at that. I am now. Where am I? There we are. I'm now average. Yeah. Exploit, yes. F devil ban me. It's sort of an exploit, really, because I could just up and down, up there. Oh, there it is. Docking computer. So, and I don't think that works on all the other versions of 8-bit Elite. That might be a Spectrum exploit only. I'm not sure. Right. So we are. Where are we now? This is a rich industrial. So things like computers and stuff should be cheap here, right? Or relatively cheap. So we can buy things like now luxuries are quite good. I can't remember which way around it is. The computers are only 61 credits per ton here, so we can buy the entire cargo hold full of computers, right, at 61 credits, which is pretty good. One of the best trade routes in the game, this one. So we can go back to Eisenor now. Let's do a quick save. Let's remember that 61 credits. Okay, we bought. And let's just remember some of the other prices. I'm going to do what we did actually in the Spectrum version days, right? I'm going to get a piece of paper. This is a piece of paper, okay? This device, those of you who are younger may not have come across this. This is a pencil. And what you do, right, with your pen and your paper, is you write things down, okay? So where's the price list? There we go. Right, so I'm gonna look this up. Right, so here, this is what we used to do, right? Q-Theory. Right, I'm writing down Q-Theory, right? Computers are 61 credits, 61.6. Machinery is 46.8. Luxuries are 78, so that's quite expensive, right? So that might be good. Liquor and wines are. So you're looking at all the expensive items, right? Stuff that's kind of furs. There we go. Furs are 79. Things like gold is quite good. Platinum's a good one. Platinum is 77. So you basically go for the big ticket items, right? At this point, because you're trying to maximise your cash, right? The narcotics, there we are. Narcotics is the parker. You're quite right. I might come back and do that one. Now, narcotics is an interesting one. Okay, this is why the Q-Theory Eisenor run is quite good. So yeah, look at the narcotics there. Okay, so this is where you think, ooh, quick money to be made, right? So let's go over to Eisenor with our. We've done our computers, which were pretty cheap, but not like super cheap. Okay, let's go to Eisenor and compare the prices, right? So I've written down all of the prices with a pencil. This is how it was done. Okay, this is essential stuff for your elite combat here. We'll now go over to Eisenhower. Now this run is quite legendary in Elite, right? Because it's not too far away from Lave. And to be honest, you don't really need to go anywhere else. The only problem with it is that you need to have a reasonably decent ship like we now have in order to survive the transit in, because you can get hit by multiple pirates. There's another, hopefully an asteroid. So let's just take that out. Yeah, it was. There we go, half a credit. And onwards we go. Right, that is another ship. Now this is a bit annoying because this is the only thing that now slows you down in the game. Is that you can't get past these ships because you're mass locked. The jump drive doesn't work. That's another Ferdinand, so that actually won't take too long to get out of the way because it's quite fast. And as you got more and more fed up with this, because out here, unless somebody actually spots you shooting down another ship, you can get away with it. Okay. Oh, and the pirate's coming in, so let's deal with that. So you have to have a half decent ship to start doing this run, right? Because you will get attacked. Neither system is 100% safe. But once you get here, then there are massive money making. Oh, I've overheated the laser again. I really do want that military laser. It's definitely a Cobra. Shot 2 missiles at me, and another one. There you go. See, there's no point firing missiles at me, mister. There we go. Right, now this has dropped a cargo canister, right? Now I haven't got space, I don't think. No, I've got a full thing, so I can't pick it up, so it's not worth me anything. But you can then go on a piracy haul, right? Once you've got a decent ship, because just picking up 35 tons of random cargo, right, is quite good. So there we go. So you go with a Polaroid, you take a picture of this on the screen. Yeah. So I always did it with pen and paper. Okay, I did not have a Polaroid. You could come in from another angle to avoid most issues. That doesn't work on the Spectrum version, actually. Does it work on some? I know it does on Elite, that most of the ships are spawned between the line that runs between the jumping point and the planet. On the Spectrum version, it was totally random. Okay, so it didn't matter which way you approach the planet, you'd still get the same randomness of encounters. It's basically every time you press the jump drive, I'm assuming the computer is rolling a random number generator to see if you get hit by a ship. There we go, straight in that time. That's quite nice. Now, let's compare the prices at Eisenhower, right? See whether or not we're going to make a profit here. Right, so this is the prices. Right, so here we go. Computers here are 100. Which is good, right? But look at the narcotics price. Okay, they're 18 here, so that's still not great, actually. Machinery is 65. Luxuries are 100. That's pretty good. Liquor is 23, so that's actually cheaper. Furs here are 68. And platinum is 73. So looking at those numbers, the biggest differentiator is between computers, right? At 61 to 100. That's almost 40 credits per ton, right? So that's pretty good. Narcotics are about 17 credits per ton, which is good, but it's dangerous, right? And in the flip side, but furs going back the other way gives us a fair number of credits, as does liquor, but actually liquor and furs are probably a good run for us. So, but you know, selling the computers here will make a stack load of money, right? Okay, and we can build up cash quite fast, which is a good thing. So now we can. I suggest we're going to go for which is going to be the best one there. Is there anything else that strikes me as incredibly low? I mean, food is very low, but it's not particularly expensive at the other end. Let me just do the food because I didn't write that down. Food and textiles. Food here is 1.6, which is nothing. Anything else worth on that list? But it's the differentiator, obviously, between the prices, right? I think Tuplex, yeah, I think that's Elite you're thinking of, is that actually spawns all of the ships into the game as you join after the hyperspace, while these 8-bit versions, I think, just only spawn the pirates when they need to, right? It doesn't work on these original 8-bits, so there is a difference in the way the game's coded, right? So the other thing, in these 8-bit versions of the game, your ship strictly speaking, in the way that the game's coded, isn't moving. Okay, as you do the flying controls, everything in the universe is rotating around you. That's how the game is actually coded. Whereas on Olete, all the ships are doing their independent things, and you are an independent entity in that universe as well. So it's quite a lot more sophisticated. So it looks and feels like Elite, but it's actually quite a lot more sophisticated in the underpinnings. And in Olete, the ships all spawn when you hyperspace in, so they can start doing their own things, and they run along on their own AI scripts, and they can have fights with each other, which on these 8-bit versions never happened. So yeah, so I think I would be surprised on the C64 and the BBC version if there were ways of avoiding the pirates on the way in. There isn't on the Spectrum version. 1.6 credits per ton, so that's quite low. Now how much have we got? So let's try the liquor. It's 42 tons. Let's fill the ship up with booze, shall we? There we go. 35 tons of liquor. That's going to be quite good. And let's head back. Let's head back to Q2 and compare the prices of that there. Okay. So this is no longer a milk run. This one's got a bit of danger in it because we can get killed if we're not careful. And no negative amounts for fuel. Yeah. Giles was at LaveCon in 2014. Never met him. Yes, I've met Giles a number of times actually. We've met in a pub 3 or 4 times when we were discussing Elite and playing things. So he's a very cool guy, and he did do a demo of Elite at LaveCon. And interestingly enough, the Frontier guys were sitting at the back of the room, and they're sort of just watching with interest, which I thought was quite fun. They never said anything about it, but I actually gave, I think, Giles with Giles a live demo of Elite, should I say, while we were there at LaveCon in 2014. That was quite cool. But the Frontier guys popped in to have a look, okay, but they never actually said anything about the and Elite is a really nice fan-made recreation of the original Elite, but with loads and loads of other bells and whistles that you can add on. It's all quite good fun. Well, so that was nice and anticlimactic. We got in there quite simply. Now notice the prices do change a little bit. Okay, so I should have bought those narcotics earlier on. Now they have changed, right? Narcotics are now more expensive, so there is a little bit of supply and demand going on here. So it's only average price, but food here is selling for 7.2 and 7.6 for the textiles. That's not bad. We bought our liquor at 23, and it's 34 now. It's gone down slightly, but that's okay. There's a pirate there, but I'm in space station space, so I can ignore it. So you can see the game picks up a pace now because we can make quite profitable runs in both directions, and that means we're starting to get more money, right? Okay, but at this point we kind of thinking, what else do we want on our ship? The thing that we ideally want now, before we get much, before we go on a complete rampage, is that military laser. Okay, now that's 6,000 credits. That's the daddy gun in this game. That's what we really want to have. Okay, and then we can start doing all sorts of stuff, right? Because we're getting to the point where our ship is pretty tough, and then we can start going on a killing spree and stuff like that. So let's get a bit more money then. All right, so now we're at a stage where, and keeping a cash flow is good because we can now just make sure we load up the entire ship full of things and go back to wherever else we were going. Reasonable in this case. And just keep trading, right? So trading is the best way to make money at this stage of the game. There we go. Off Eisen we go. Yeah, so I need about 5,000 because I'm going to trade in the beam. The beam laser is worth 1,000. That's quite correct, Winnie. So we can get that military laser. Notice in some systems, I don't know if this is true on the BBC and the C64 as well. Notice in some systems we spawn, if you like, quite a long way away from the planet, and in some systems we spawn much closer to the planet. I don't know if that's a random thing or that's seeded as well, but it does vary. How far away from the station, how far away from the planet you appear. That's a Python. And these are, in the game, these are effectively trading vessels. The ones that don't attack you are minding their own business trading. Don't know where he's going, right? But he's doing something. Because because he should just hyperspace out, right? Rather than you should be coming in my direction. So quite where these ships are actually flying to. If you follow them, they just fly, right? They just go in a straight line, so they don't go anywhere. There's no AI driving their thing. The only thing that they will do is if you get too close, they'll start doing evasive maneuvers and change course. So, but other than that, they just fly in a straight line. So you can follow them forever if you're so inclined. Oddly enough, I was talking to Kate Russell actually on Thursday about this, and she just remembers not believing that space was infinite in the game. So she just basically took her ship and just flew in a straight line for ages and ages and ages until the sun and the planet were really, really small, and she just left it going overnight apparently. And she couldn't believe it the next morning that the game was still flying through space. So it's funny the little memories that you have about the way the game works. And it's like, it really is unbelievable space. Now that is, there's some debris, and there's also, and that's just debris there. Okay, nothing to worry about. I was thinking we might be able to see an escape pod, but we didn't. Notice how much faster my shields return to full strength. Okay, it totally transforms your ability to defend yourself. That extra energy unit is totally essential for fighting off pirates, because you know that if you fight one off, then by the time you've flown around a bit and recovered, to take on the next one, your shields will be back up. So it's sort of a shield enhancement, I suppose. It would be the nearest thing in Elite. Dangerous. And I've overheated my laser again. That's why we do want that military laser, because every hit is twice as effective as the beam laser, right? So you actually kill things. Yeah, maybe the other ships are heading to the star to refuel, but why would they be flying up there? I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that's the way the game works, right? So this is why I started my life of pirates. I hated the mass locking. So this is a bit annoying. This is at this point in the game, once you get the military laser, you start getting really fed up with these ships, and you just start assassinating them because they're in your way. Pinching their cargo, and you fly around being a pirate. So we might try being a bit of a pirate for a while, right? We might go bad for a bit and see what happens, because we want to get our kill count up. We're doing all right actually. Now we've got to average now. I don't know how many kills that is. Somebody will be able to tell me. Somebody's probably got the thing. Now what we haven't seen many of the other ships. We've seen a Sidewinder, we've seen an Anaconda, we've seen Asp, we've seen Python, we've seen Cobra, we've seen Ferdlands. We haven't seen any attacking Ferdlances so far. They've all been trader versions. So we'll see what else we come across. Haven't seen crates or adders yet. There's another Cobra. So this is what gets a little bit annoying, right? Is the trading vessels mass lock you. And this is the bit of the game that's still slow, and there's nothing you can do about it other than shoot them, right? Is the Mamba in this game? Now that's a good question. I can't remember if the Mamba's in Elite Spectrum. It is, okay. Thanks to Plex. I haven't seen one yet in this playthrough, so it's a rarer ship, right? It's a rarer ship. And I haven't seen, one thing I do remember quite a lot of in the Spectrum is the Rock Hermits. I haven't seen any of those at all yet, which I'm a bit surprised at. I remember them being relatively common. A rock hermit basically looks like an asteroid, only it doesn't rotate, it's static. So this is the third Cobra we've seen, right? We just have to wait. So I don't want to ruin my clean rating just yet. Maybe we'll do that next episode. Maybe we'll go bad next week. We'll see how it goes. So there's yet another Cobra going past. Now you do get a bit of RNG again when you attack the traders, because most of the time they're easy to kill, right? But occasionally you'll get a well-spec'd trader. Okay, it will turn upon you with a beam laser, and that can be quite a bit. Murder and drug running, says Willie. Yeah, let's do some. Let's do that. Murder and drug running on the ZX Spectrum. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So it's the only thing in the game that now slows you down, because the docking computer speeds up the whole docking piece, right? Which is nice. But those, you start to, at this point in the game, get a bit fed up with the traders, right? Because they're in your way all the time. So there we go. Well, we now have enough money to buy that. Now the problem is we haven't got enough money keep our holds full, which is an important part of the game. Now, I don't think, actually looking at that, I can't buy the military laser here. So this is the other problem. You have to find a high-tech system to get the military laser from, which actually I don't think either of these systems are. That's tech level 9. I'm not sure that's high enough. The highest tech level, what's Tianisla? That's tech level 12, so we can go there. So what I suggest we do is we do one more run to Qtiri. Is that right? Yeah, Qtiri. Where are we now? I get confused. Right, we're in Eisenor, right, which is cheap for. Oh, this one's where it's cheap for liquor and stuff, isn't it? Right. So let's do. That's quite cheap. Let's get that. There we go. Right, and we'll head for Qtiri. Make sure to save the game, Drew. Save the game. Don't want to lose progress. There we go. And it was it. Okay, so it was censored in the NES version. Excellent. And so we can't possibly do that. That's just wrong. You know, having things like that in our game. So let's go back to Qtiri. Let's sell those. Then we should have enough money to get this military laser, right? So it's like, then we've got a nice ship. And we got a tough ship. And we're very much in the. We've completed the first part of the game at this point because we've basically got a decent ship. Once you get the military laser, you can pretty much do anything you like. And the game's difficult. You can, and it might be worth us trying it actually. We'll obviously do the Thargoid run in a bit, see how we do. It'll be quite nice to get the military laser before, because we know we've got defeated with the beam laser, right? But we didn't have the extra energy unit at the time. But the military laser makes a massive difference to this. So we will try that. That's the point. So you have to wait for this Python to get out of the range, and the Python is a slow ship in Elite. It takes ages to get off the scanner. Right, there we go. So we just need to wait for that to go green again. What I find, there's this one thing here that's slightly always irritated me about the Spectrum version here, is that circle with a green alert indicator is a really badly drawn circle, isn't it? If you look at the compass, right, that's a perfect circle, at least on an 8-bit computer, right? Whereas the green, yellow, amber indicator thing is all kind of, that's really badly drawn. Looks like someone sort of did it roughly by hand. It's like lopsided and stuff. It's like, could you not quite, my OCD kicking in there. Did I find my original Elite badge? I haven't found it yet, but I think I know where it is. It will be in the attic, so I need to go and dig it out for next week's stream. I will promise to try and do that. Right, so that's that. Now Qtiri is rich industrial. What is Tianisla? It's also rich industrial, so there's no point us really grabbing gold. We've got enough money to go and get the beam lasers. The thing. So let's just do that. We're going to go into Tianisla now and go and buy the military lasers. Yes, we are very happy about this. So I never noticed until so slaves and narcotics were in the original version. So quite and that interesting choice, right? Interesting choice to put that in a game that is going to be played by kids, right? Elite was marketed at pretty much, young teenage boys, right? Primarily. And you're sort of sending a message that you can go out there and smuggle narcotics and slaves and kill people. There's all perfectly acceptable choices in the computer game. So one of the earliest games that gave you those sort of moral questions, right? So I don't remember my parents ever commenting on it. Well, they probably never even knew, to be honest. But I think they might have had something to say. Oh, he's done quite well actually in knocking my energy down, that guy. Quite a fierce. See, no use firing this on me now. There goes the escape pod. But I'm gonna get the kill anyway. Now, once the escape pod's launched, notice the ship just flies in a straight line. It doesn't alter its course, which is sort of realistic, right? And we might as well scoop these up since we're here. Actually, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will scoop up the escape pod, because that's naughty, right? Let's be slightly naughty. Let's start on the path of naughtiness, because of course once we start down the path of darkness, forever it will dominate our destiny, right? He says, mixing his genres slightly. So if we scoop up this escape pod, you will see what happens. I think you already know, but you know, this is a slightly morally ambiguous. Now, of course, when I first did this, I assumed I was doing a good favour. I thought, well, you know, actually, I've shot this guy down, but I'm actually going to rescue him. But of course, what happens is you get some slaves. And what happens as a result of that is, notice my legal status has now changed, right? I am now no longer clean. I am now an offender. Okay, I've done something illegal. Scooping up escape pods in the universe of Elite is an illegal activity. Okay, it doesn't tell you that in the manual. It's something you find out. But as you notice, I can sell him for 13 credits. It's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So quite what happens in the lore to these people is, you know, one moment you're a captain of a ship, you press your escape pod and the other commander scoops you up, and somehow your escape pod gets cryogenically frozen and you end up being a slave. And so what happens to you as a result of that, I'm not entirely sure, but it's quite interesting, right? So now you can clean your status. That offender status won't stay for very long. I'm not quite sure what the dynamics of changing the your legal status is. But if you behave yourself for a bit and don't break any more laws, eventually it goes back to clean. Okay. You can only get the fugitive, I think, from killing other ships. But you know, you will get. You know, so it will clean itself up over time. By being good, you can undo it. But an offender won't give you too much trouble, although you may get attacked by some other ships. But a fugitive, any police ship that you encounter will instantly attack you, which is, I think the cooldowns, it's range jumped, is it? Okay, well there you go. So the further off you jump, it cools away then. Clean, offender and fugitive, those are the only ones, Winnie. So you can be a clean, offender or fugitive. So those are the only statuses for your legal status in the original game. Did you ever hear the tale of Drew Wager the Wise? Oh no, I don't know who he is. It's not the story that Braben would tell you. Cheeky madam. Dear. So yeah. Anyway, right now we are at Tir Nisla. We can, I hope, buy the military laser. And you see, it's the second most expensive thing that we can buy, right? So the only thing that's more expensive is the galactic hyperspace. Actually, no, sorry, I'm wrong. Military laser is the most expensive thing you can buy, and closely followed by the galactic hyperspace, and that is the entire tech list. So we're now near the top of the tree, right? So we're going to buy the military laser. We're going to put it on the front, and we are set. Okay. Now we can start. This is basically about as good as the ship can be, right? The energy bomb is kind of useful to get out of trouble, but it's kind of a cheat because it just wipes out everything on the map. So if you get into serious trouble, it's just boom. It's like the smart bomb on Defender and games like that. We will eventually get round to a galactic hyperspace, but we've got the energy unit, we've got the docking computers, now we've got the military laser. Escape pod and energy bomb are kind of irrelevant to us, really, because we can save, right? We've got the fuel scoops. We don't need the beam lasers anymore. We don't need the pulse lasers anymore. We've got the ECM. We've got the large cargo bay, and we've got a full rack of missiles, and we've got all the fuel. So we now have an Uber ship, okay? An iron ass, as it's called in the lore. There are a few more bits and pieces we can get, though. So, you know, there's stuff that we can go. But now we can start, if we want to, start causing some grief, right? So we can go find some interesting places to go. And let's have a look around. So multi-government, okay, that's a pretty dangerous system, right? So let's go over there and we'll just hang around and give pirates some grief, okay? So at this point we can go hunting, right? So this is where you start to get your credit rating up. What is galactic hyperspace? So galactic hyperspace is basically in Elite you've got 8 galactic charts. This is chart 1. This is where we start, and we haven't gone out of this chart yet. You can hyperspace around all these dots on the screen, right? They're all different star systems, but there are 8 charts, and the galactic hyperspace is what takes you to another chart, and it's a one-way trip. It's like you've used it, and you've got to buy another one that takes you to the next chart, and the next chart, and the next chart. When you get to chart 8, a galactic hyperspace will take you back to chart 1. So there are 8 kind of bits of the galaxy you can go to. Some people say it's a galactic, you're moving to another galaxy. Some people say it's just charts of various parts of the same galaxy. It's not entirely clear in the lore, but I remember arguing about that at school. Actually, none of us ever landed it. But in my head, lore-wise, it is a sector of the galaxy rather than a completely different galaxy. Of course, all the planets and systems in this are totally made up. They're not real, so there's no pretense to realism in this. The manual does say another galaxy, does it? Okay, well there we go, Kelvinator. So it does say another galaxy. So it's kind of, that's not really quite right, is it? But if it's if the manual says it, the manual says it. So anyway, so let's go to Bemeria, wherever that is, with our military laser. Let's say that again. And we will let's go liberate some. Let's go liberate the place, right? Oh, hang on. There we go. Because this is a dangerous system, but we've got a tough ship, right? Hyperdrive across galaxy. Well, Kelvinator's found it. Right, so we're gonna let's head for the sun first and refuel since we're here. Might as well. How far away is the sun? Can we even find? Now, this is the problem on this 8-bit version: is if the sun isn't directly behind the planet, there's no obvious way to actually find it. You have to sort of do it by luck, and eventually you come across it, and then you can jump drive towards it, right? Now you'll notice here that we're still a Fender, right? That is a trading ship which is friendly. So I'm going to leave it alone for that. Looks that's the third Lance. Actually, we don't really want to fight one of those. Those are quite well equipped ships. So we'll leave that one alone. But we should, at some point, get jumped by quite a number of pirates. Although we haven't got any, we have got a bit of cargo. We're still carrying our illegal slaves, actually. I'm going to have to track down my classmates down to apologise. You're quite right. I've got something to tell you about school 40 years ago. You know when we that would be quite funny, wouldn't it? Yeah, so actually in the lore here, we're able to travel to different galaxies, right? Can't argue with that. It's written down in the lore. So yeah, it's weird. So actually there we are. Hyperdrive across galaxies. The intergalactic hyperdrive is expensive and can be obtained from planets tech level 10. Can only be used once and will take you to a system in a whole new galaxy. There we are. And there are 8 such galaxies. Okay, so that's what the game says, right? So yeah, so in the universe of Elite, we don't have any galactic travel at all. So yeah, what happened to that? Okay, it does make more sense to be treated as a sector of the galaxy, but I'm a stick for the law. The law says we had galactic hyperspace, right? And we lost it. So where did it go? What happened to it in the universe Elite? That needs explanation, right? I would assume it's been retconned by this point, of course, that particular game, but it never showed up again. Okay, so galactic hyperspace didn't appear in Frontier Elite 2, and it didn't appear in Frontier First Encounters either, and of course it's not in Elite Dangerous, as we know. Don't know what that is. It looks like an asteroid. Yeah, it was. So anyway, there we go. We're almost at the star. Oh, there's another ship. We haven't seen any pirates though. Kind of a bit surprising. It's another Python. See how slow it moves. It's really quite annoying. Anyway, I want to get this one because we've got to do that. We've got to do our Thargoid run, right? I wanted to show you fighting a pirate though with the military laser, but it's not. The game's not playing ball at the moment. Hidden by Raxley, yeah, it could be, right? It could be a new era update, galactic hyperspace. Yeah, Elite 5, even more dangerous. Retconned or hidden by Raxley, yeah. The Andromeda strain. Yeah, see, that's right. We can't find Raxley. It's in a different galaxy. Could be, right? I mean, you know, you could. Oh, bloody ships. All right, let's turn around. Head back towards the planet. Actually, no. I want the fuel because I want to be able to make the. I want to make the Thargoid thingamajig. Right. Anyway, there we go. Fuel scoops are on. We're almost there. So you should be able to get the. There we go. Get the star outside the window, which keeps your cabin temperature relatively stable, but allows the fuel scoops. And the fuel scoops are actually quite slow. I remember them being faster than this, but obviously they're not. It takes a surprising amount of time to fill up the fuel tanks on the specky, doesn't it? So, but yeah, that's all right. Don't mind that. So you learn the art of navigating using your right view here. Getting a bit too close to the planet there, or to the star rather. Oop, now I got it wrong. There we go. I don't want to be going that way. Let's go round to the back. Or does the fuel scoop work without actually moving? Oh no, it does. Actually, that's. I do vaguely remember that. Yeah, you don't need to fly around. You just sort of sit here, wait for the fuel tanks to top up. Yeah, so they scoop automatically. There we go. I don't need to be moving. But you can see I've got a flashing red light because I'm so close. Oh, there's a pirate. That's always nice, isn't it? Let's see what the military laser can do, shall we? We've got enough fuel. It's virtually full. So let's go and get that guy. Oh, actually, there we are. We are on our fuel. Well, who have we got here? Okay. Got to be a bit careful of that cabin temperature. Looks like another asp, possibly. Or no, it's a python. That's unusual. Pirate python. Okay. Got to watch that cabin temperature. Otherwise, I will die if that gets too high. Right. Military laser. Same sound effects. Python's one of the toughest ships in the game, shield wise. We took quite a batter in there, even with the military laser. There we go. There goes the escape pod. Boom. Right, and we got some. Whoa! Look at the cabin temperature. Got to be a bit careful here. Where's the star? Yeah. Cabin temperature is literally. Ugh. Oh no! I got too close to the star. Cook the ship. Oops. So yeah, be careful of that, Mike. Let's quick load that. Oh dear, that was quite funny. So it's still hazardous, right? Elite dangerous, right? Got Barbadrude. Game over, man. Game over. Ah dear. Just as well we saved the game, right? So hang on, let me just check that. Where we have got our military laser. Right, so it's time. It is time to do the Thargoid run. Okay. It's time to do the Thargoid run. So where should we go? Now, if we go to Zeonce, if I survive, we'll be able to jump back. Okay. So we need to pause the game, which is that. Then they press F. It gets a beep. And then unpause it. There we go. Right, we should get a missed jump this time. And with our extra energy unit and the military laser, we've got a good chance of surviving this attack. So here we go. Can I survive the Thargoids for the first time? Right, we've got 3. This is good. Right, military lasers, fire! Look at that frame rate. Oh, I just shot down a Thargoid. Thargon rather. Right, that one's destroyed. This is what part of the problem is. The frame rate is really slow. That's the second one. Military lasers for the win. There's the Thargoid, the Thargons, should I say, being launched. Now they will attack me as well. Right, that's 2 down. Where's the third one? Now, this is where the scanner. There it is. Right, we're in good shape. We should be able to do this. I've just got to take this one out, and then the other Thargons will stop working. Now they are remote-controlled craft. By this, so you can just saw one attack me. Yes, there we go. Right, 50 credits each. Right, I have defeated the Thargoids. Right, let's pick up the bits and pieces. This is thing. There's lots of debris around. Some of this debris is just ship debris, but some of it is. Victory went to the Drew. There we go. So I have defeated the Thargoids in witch space, which is pretty cool, right? That's just an alloy. What I want is the alien items. That's going to scoot around. There we go. Pick that up. Now you've got to get them before they drift off the scanner, right? So let's get that furthest away one there first, and we can come back and get the other two, because they're all moving in space, right? Which is a bit irritating. Interesting enough, I got an S. I don't quite know how that works. Why have I got an S in Thargoid space? That's a bit weird. I don't know why there's an S there. That is a bit strange. So I might try pressing the docking computer in a minute and see what happens. Right, that's alloys as well. There are 2 Thargons out there, which we can scoop up. I want those. Right, so that's the alloys. Let's get these little monkeys as well. Okay, now these are quite good, because these are basically the remote-controlled Thargon craft that were launched against me. Now, they become static once you kill the motherships, and you can scoop them up. And as long as I don't actually hit it, there we go. I get a ton of alien items, which I think might be where Alien took your name from. Is that right? Alien items? Alien? I don't know, maybe. Right, let's go and get this one. Now, the other thing you notice is they've coded in the game here that there is less space dust out here, right? There's less space dust, which means the frame rate. So I don't know if that's because of the potential. I've got the S because I left the space station, so it's just jammed on, right? Okay, that sort of makes sense. So that's another view of the Thargon. It's like a 5-sided thing, right? And then we get to, so there we go. If I press, the docking computer doesn't work, right? But interesting enough, there is less space dust in this aerospace, and the rationale for that is that we are, if you look on the map, we are nowhere, right? We are. Okay, so there's a long name, but a long explanation for your name, but it's not that one. Okay, that's cool. We'll have to hear that somewhere. We are nowhere, right? We're in interstellar space. So here there is no star. Notice that the compass does not spin because it's got nothing to lock onto, and you can see the frame rate of the game is really much higher. But there's now nothing out here. We can't jump drive because it thinks it's locked because of the space station, but of course it isn't actually. So that's a slight bug in the game. And yeah, so anyway, so we have survived a Thargoid interdiction, right? And so now what we have to do is we have to go home somewhere. Let's go back to Tia Nisla, because why not? With our ill-gotten gains, I think. Do I have to take the F mode off, or is it? We'll find out. We'll see if we hyperdict again, shall we? If we do, I might have to go through that again. I think it's a one-off thing. Oh no, my God, it's not. I need to switch that mode off, otherwise we're permanent. Will I survive this? Right, there's one. I may have to switch that mode off in order to. Oh, one of them hit me. That's not good. Let's see. Well, that will give me a bit of a better kill count, won't it? See, the military lasers are quite effective against the Thargoids, quite deliberately. I think I'm going to get them all again. Oh, that was the Thargon. Got in the way. And my military laser's overheated. It's chucking Thargons out at me. Yes! Right, and that ship should... Oh, and it's still active. There must be another ship out there. Where's the other Thargoid? There it is. Alright, come on, this is skills now. Okay, so I've survived 2 Thargoid invasions. Didn't have that problem before. Right, I think that's it. Yes. So you see how effective the military laser is compared to the other ones. It's just like night and day, really. There we go. So we should be able to scoop up a whole stack load of these. And then sell them back. No, I need to go and make sure I press the off button. See there, yeah, with the extra energy unit, my shields are already fully back up even after that attack. So it makes a massive, massive difference to your offensive and defensive power. The combination of the military lasers and the extra energy unit, as long as you've got reasonable skills as a pilot, right? Which I'm okay, you know, I'm okay. you are most of the time, unless you make a mistake or get unlucky or get jumped by multiple pirates, or you just get outmaneuvered, you're close to indestructible. But you can still get things wrong, right? So you're not invulnerable. Oh, missed it. There it is. The problem is when the scanner gets close in, it's quite hard to see where you're going. And each of the ships does have its own little direction vector, so I must admit, because we haven't survived that before, I didn't know how to switch off the hyperdiction. So that's where I've shown you. There we are. We've survived 2 Thargoid encounters there. So that does randomly happen in the game anyway, but it's quite a low chance of it happening at any given time. Whereas, like you say, you can force it there. I don't know if that is a test. Whether that was a, let's turn it off. There we go. Whether that was a test mechanism that was just left in the game, that should allow us to get out. I hope. Otherwise, maybe trapped in hyperspace forever. I'm hoping that gets it out. Yes, there we go. We've returned to normal space. Yay! Let's get to the space station, and then we can hang up our boots. Right, that's that. Blooming asteroid. But that was a good way. I mean, at this point, you could again, you know, the modern gaming name for it is obviously farming, but we didn't call it farming back then. I don't know what we called it. We just went out there and shot things, right? So at this point in the game, you can use the Thargoid mist jump, right, to just build up your ranking fast, and you're getting 50 credits for each one you shoot. So, you know, there at the end of that gaming session, right, not only have I survived the Thargoids, I'm now above average. I'm back to being clean, because I think killing Thargoids kind of operates in your favour, right? So let's get the ship fully loaded again. And let's sell off what we do have. So let's just quietly sell those slaves. Nobody's looking at us now because we're good guys, having defeated some Thargoids. We've got 5 tons of alien items, right? Okay, so that sells us some stuff as well. So we've got a small amount of cash still, but we've got a pretty well full equipped ship. Okay, so we've done all right. Okay, we've done quite well there. So let's save that while I'm thinking about it. So we are in the Tierney's star system. Good place to be in the lore. Full tank of fuel, 2,000 credits of cash. We're now above average. We're back to being clean, and we've got a pretty well equipped ship. Okay, we've got the cargo bay, fuel scoops, anti-missiles, energy unit, docking computers, front military laser, rear mining laser. We can pretty much now access any part of the game. All right, and now what we basically have to do is we have to go travelling. Okay, it's important to go travelling at this point. So as we start to get our rating, we need to get our rating to about competent, I think. Because I don't know what the mission trigger levels are, right? But we can now start kind of hacking and slicing our way through the universe if we want. So I think next week, let's be bad boys, okay? let's be bad guys. Is that from Firefly? Come on then, let's be bad guys. If there was any justice in the universe, we'd be in jail. So I think we're. Double competence. Okay, so we're a fair way off now. So what we need to do is we need to go and kill stuff, right? So we're going to go mental next week, and so next week is we're going to be bad guys, right? We're just going to hack and slaughter our way through the galaxy and attack anything we can, right? And try and get our rating up as much as possible, because now we've got a ship that can do it. Okay, we've got a ship that can actually go out there and fight. So that's going to be next week. It's going to be slash and burn through the whole of the Elite Dangerous, whole of the Elite universe. Okay, we're going to be fugitive for a bit. We're going to be bad guys because we need to get our rating up to see if we can get these missions to trigger, right? Okay, so that's the target, and we may need to jump into other galaxies as well. So and sell our ill-gotten gains. So that's the plan. That's the plan for next week. We're going to be bad guys. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for your company. We've done well. So that's 6 hours of play, right? Now, we didn't do that as fast as you could probably possibly have done it, but that's 6 hours of play, and we've now got a ship which is capable of taking us to the next level of the game, right? So we've done the first part of the game effectively. We've got the ship, right? Now we've got to rank up a bit and then trigger the missions, and so we're kind of entering the mid part of the game now. So there we go. It's all good fun, right? Okay, and I'm looking forward to triggering these missions. I'm quite keen to see it because this is good stuff. So anyway, thank you very much for your company. You look after yourselves. Back on Monday, of course, for my creative stream. Thursday for Elite Dangerous Law Tour. We're going to be talking about generation ships and hyperspace tech on the Law Tour on Thursday. Friday is my Stellaris stream where I've got a rampaging mob of mad priestess women trying to take over the galaxy. That's going to be quite good fun. And then next Saturday, of course, back here for more ZX Spectrum Elite Retro goodness. So it's going to be good fun. So lovely to see you all. Thank you very much for popping in. You take absolute care of yourselves. Look after yourselves. Have a great time. And I will see you soon. You be good. Take care. Bye-bye now.